Hi, everybody in Research Methods, Psych 290. Today we talk about Section 4 of the reading packet. Hopefully you finished with the first exam already. This section, or chapter, is the hypothesis. This is an essential part of the class, not only so that you will do well on the next exam, but also to help you formulate your ideas for the paper, because every good research project, not just in psychology, starts with a hypothesis. But you might have guessed it gets a little more complicated than that. So let's get started. First of all, it gives some examples here, but the important parts are right there in the middle of the page. 1, 2, and 3 on this page at least. Descriptive. Hypotheses, that's the plural, by the way, of hypothesis. More than one hypothesis are hypotheses. You can describe something, or you can talk about the difference between one group and another. By the way, you will notice on the paper that you're going to fill out on what your topic is for your paper, that would make it an independent t-test. I'm going to predict the difference between things. The hypothesis would be a difference hypothesis and use an independent t-test. Relationship. This is for correlation hypotheses. One factor is related to the other, but you don't have two different groups of people. You just have one, and it's one factor being related to the other in one way or another. So, descriptive. Older students will be good students. We talk about the concept of operational definition in this class a few times during the semester. Well, now it comes up again. What is an older student? Someone over 21? Someone over 30? Someone who's at least 40 years old? I would need a definition. What do I mean by good student? That you don't disrupt the class? I've had a few of those, by the way, who do. That you have at least a 3.0 GPA, that you turn in all of your work, that you're never late or leave early. I don't know. I would have to make a definition for that too, not just what an older student is, but what it means to be a good student. So anyway, if all I'm doing is describing people or a phenomenon or behavior, well, that's descriptive. Difference. I'm going to compare one group to another. So older students are more likely to get an A than younger students. Older students are more likely to sit in the front and participate. Whatever it is that I am studying, I am predicting a difference between one group and the other group. Relationship hypothesis. I am not having two groups here. Instead, everybody is assumed to be part of one group. But I have two factors. How many absences you have and what is your test score, how many assignments you turn in, and I don't know, what is your percentage for the semester? Whatever the two factors are, it is one group of people. So, as it says in this paragraph now, you can see that the same type of question can be rephrased in different ways so that it's a different kind of hypothesis, descriptive, difference, or relationship. Now, where do these hypotheses come from? They come from laws, theories, and ideas. Let's start with an idea. This is just something that occurs in somebody's head. I had an idea, just like it sounds like. However, here's the problem with an idea. It can lead to prejudice and bias and unfounded thoughts that just, have no basis in reality, are not supported by research. So therefore, you see I'm starting at the bottom here, ideas are not what we usually study in psychology. Let's go to laws and talk about that, and we'll save theory for a moment. Laws are universal truths. Think of the phrase law of nature. Gee, if you don't have oxygen, you die. Another law of nature in college is if you don't pay your tuition, you get dropped. Whatever is universally true, a law of nature. Do we study those in psychology? Not often. There are some that are trying to laws that are trying to be proven in other sciences. Does a certain medicine help a certain condition? Psychology, this is rare, where we're trying to find an always answer, a law of nature. How come? Because humans are so complex, that's why. So what do we study? Here, theories. That is the most common thing that we study. Theories. Why? Because a theory is psychological in nature with regard to how it is studied. You use a set of principles, you base it on previous research, you based it on something that is well researched or well accepted within your field of study, and in this case it's psychology, but the same would be true in sociology or anthropology or anything else. So I bet when you come up with your hypotheses, it will likely be based on theories. Now, we use a deductive method. What does that mean? We start with something general and we try to deduce it or reduce it down to something concrete. So perhaps you're thinking for your topic that people who play a lot of video games are also aggressive if they play aggressive type video games. Well, maybe that's true, maybe not. But we could study that using a deductive method. And then we could say, video games, that's the topic. Oh, wait a minute, I'm going to narrow it down to aggressive video games and people who get aggressive. So see, you can be as specific as you want. Now, next term, parsimonious followed by falsifiable. This will absolutely be on the exam, and it's just a good thing to know anyway. Parsimonious means simple. This class doesn't have a whole lot of humor in it, does it? Research methods. But this is kind of funny. The longest word of the semester means simple. That's what parsimonious means. So you want your hypothesis to be as simple as possible. Don't get too convoluted and too sidetracked and include too many different variables. Make it simple. And then the next word, falsifiable. You should be able to prove your topic, your hypothesis, right or wrong. That's falsifiable. We have a couple of theories in psychology that are not very falsifiable, like psychoanalysis. How can you prove that something happened because of someone's unconscious? How about humanistic, person-centered? How do you ever prove that a person is striving to be all that they can be and self-actualizing? Those things are hard to prove. So therefore, they're not very falsifiable when it comes to doing research. But what if I said my topic is people who enter a relationship because they want to date someone and get married, and they live at home with their parents, and they're taking a full load of classes and working part-time at a retail job? Wait a minute, that's getting too complicated. That would not be parsimonious. So you want it to be simple, straight to the point, and falsifiable. Something that you can prove right or prove wrong. So I wouldn't worry about these bottom two, correlation and experiment. It's just kind of an example, won't be on your exam. But if we were in class together, rather than doing this online, we would be doing these together as a class. I would have you work with each other and try to make hypotheses that fit into these specific topics. You will see that I did the first two for you, just as an example. Some of them are easier to put into different hypotheses than others. So you see this first one about elderly people and memory. If I am predicting that the older a person is, the worse his or her memory will be, well, isn't that a relationship hypothesis? When one number goes up, the other one goes down. Age goes up, your memory goes down. As far as a memory score, I think that's a relationship hypothesis. It would call for a correlation. This next one, I'm comparing one group to another group, younger people and older people. Oops, I put younger people and younger people, didn't I? That was my mistake. Well, you know what I mean. Younger people We could cross that out right now, huh? Younger people and older people. I want to say that one will be different than the other. It's so hard to write using this little red font here, isn't it? There we go. Now you know what I mean, huh? That would be an independent t-test because it's a difference hypothesis. What about the third one? Elderly people will present with poor memories. I'm only describing a group of people. Now, scrolling down a little bit here, maybe a little bit too much, huh? Classroom lighting and test scores. Students in bright classrooms. You know what? I can define that. The number of lumens present in the air, you can measure brightness. You really can. They will score higher than students who are not in classrooms that are not bright. Again, I can define that. A certain level of lighting that can be measured and defined. But what about this one? Test scores of students in bright classrooms the students will have high test scores. Well, I'm just describing them, aren't I? But the brighter the room, the higher the scores on an algebra final exam. Well, I am doing a relationship hypothesis, one factor being related to the other. Look, here's 3 more that you can practice on if you're so inclined. Don't forget to do the assignment as well. This is something we'd be doing in class just as practice. Another thing we'd be doing in class to practice is, what are your hypotheses going to be once you finally pick a topic? Single parent families and juvenile delinquency. Are you comparing one group to another where it's just one parent raising the kids compared to having 2 parents in the home? Or are you saying the longer that a parent has been single, the more trouble the kid gets in with the law? Or are you just describing them? There are 3 ways to do it, just like in the first 2 questions. Same thing with this one about Prozac compared to new medicines for depression. I'm so old, I remember when Prozac was the new medicine. And the last one, school children and female teachers. Are we comparing them to having a male teacher? Are we saying that the longer they've been in a class with a female teacher, or merely describing them? So all of these, just by wording them differently, can be the same topic largely, but a different kind of hypothesis, and therefore calling for a different type of t-test. Now, one more thing. I probably should have covered this closer to the beginning of this discussion. Hypotheses are future tense. You state them before you ever do your research. So therefore, you're predicting something that you haven't even studied yet. So therefore, you say, it is predicted, or this will happen, and then you see if you are right. It's not important to be right. Sometimes in life it feels like it, but when you're doing research, proving yourself wrong can be just as interesting as proving yourself right. So a future tense statement about what you're looking for, and then you finally conduct the research to see if it turns out to be true. So back to the top, this is all about the hypothesis. This is the first thing we cover after the first exam. We talked about descriptive, describing people, difference, one group compared to another, and relationship. As one factor goes up, what happens to the other one? Does it also go up, or does it go down? Well, it's one group of people. We also talked about laws, theories, and ideas. In psychology, it's usually theories that we are researching. We talked about the deductive method and parsimonious versus falsifiable. Parsimonious means simple. You want your hypothesis to be very easily understood and straight to the point, but also we want to be able to prove it right or wrong. It needs to be falsifiable. So that is about it for this chapter. I will get back with you on chapter 5 when we cover the next topic for the second exam and the next topic for this class. Take care.